People talk about the public as if they're one group of people, but as we've seen through history, there's systematic blindness to certain groups in the public, and maybe people not as well resourced or technology hooked up. We want to recover the wider public, recover phenomenon that's consistently overlooked even though it's ubiquitous. And that's what I find so amazing, is it's right in front of us, but we are blind to it.
Annette Kim is a professor in the Department of Urban Studies and Planning at MIT. She is working at the forefront of a new kind of map making, bringing attention to people that have historically been overlooked.
There's power in the map. Any map is not a neutral statement, but it's a knowledge claim. A map saying this is there says something exists and the nature of it, and whose perspective is it from. Many of the maps the last couple hundred years were made by governments who were trying to expand their territories, and that shaped what kind of maps were made, either for governing and operating their territories.
Kim has found that traditional maps poorly equip planners to make decisions for their cities. She wants to make maps that describe places and people. Kim is bending all the rules of traditional mapmaking to find innovative ways of representing the people in places. She found her inspiration to do this in 2000 while living in Vietnam as a Fulbright scholar.
Southern Vietnam is like the breadbasket of Vietnam. I mean, it's just incredibly colorful, beautiful, delicious. I would have these rhythms of going in and out of my house to go to places, and you would see neighbors and all this activity in the street. I loved living there.
She fell in love with what she calls the humanity of the city. In the years since, she has been working to make sense of what makes Ho Chi Minh City special.
The minute you step out the door, you're already interacting at a very humane level with our neighbor who started a Sidewalk cafe, and then people make eye contact with you. You see people eating breakfast, a daily human need, and there's eye contact and smiles exchanged. You weave your bodies around each other. There's smells and sounds, and it's just all these layers that were going on, and it's so rich.
In 2010, Kim returned to Ho Chi Minh City with a group of graduate students. She was determined to make sense of the city's magic.
This project really was asking what was so wonderful about that city. And so I brought people with me who'd never been there before, and I told them to note every single thing that they could observe on a stretch of sidewalk. And we did this again and again through different parts of the city.
As they worked, the team noticed the police clearing street vendors off of the sidewalks. They learned that these efforts were intended to keep sidewalks orderly and attractive to visitors.
One of the reasons for clearing off sidewalk life and street vendors is the incorrect assumption that tourists don't like this. And so we gathered thousands of self-reported tourist observations about what they liked, and the overarching theme was food and this life in the public space, which was not big squares and forums, but sidewalks, and this community orientation, neighborliness, and kind of humane interaction, and this delicious food, so many kinds of food. One of the most meaningful moments for me was when I proposed an alternative strategy that included street vendors to Ho Chi Minh City's planning department, and one of the officials had an aha moment and said, "I never realized we were going through communities. I thought we were doing a logistics exercise." And he wanted to go out right then and enjoy this sidewalk life, which he'd lived in his whole life and had made plans about professionally his whole life, but he hadn't seen it.
While documenting all of the different things taking place on the streets and sidewalks, Kim and her team began to experiment with visual representations. They realized that maps could be a powerful way to depict the intricacies of this intriguing place.
One of the things I would hope for with a new kind of mapping is that it would help us see better and help us, with my maps, see more of the people who are in the city and to include them when we design and govern and make policies of the city.
Kim's maps couldn't look more different from the traditional maps that have sometimes been problematic in city planning. One traces the daily route of a street vendor. Another tracks migration routes from the countryside to Ho Chi Minh City. One map shows the changes over time on a street corner. Another charts the different kinds of activity and commerce on sidewalks in the city. Back at MIT, Kim and her team turned the methods developed in Ho Chi Minh City into an ongoing project. They formed a research group called the Sidewalk Lab, or SLAB for short.
I need other people to help me see other perspectives, things I've missed. So it's really collaborative, and we keep it open and fun, and each week what I found is a magic arrives just by the synergy of being together.
Although SLAB's work has focused on documenting sidewalk life in Ho Chi Minh City, it offers planners and public leaders anywhere a new way to think about how people use public space. Every city, for Kim, is different and calls for its own solutions. In Cambridge, Massachusetts, where she lives and works, there's an alleyway covered in public art whose contributions are unplanned and ever-changing.
Look what's evolved through that interaction, and this could have been a very forgotten, just an expedient passageway for pedestrians from parking lot to shopping, but now it's more of an experience, and it keeps changing and growing with whoever's here.
I hope SLAB brings attention to a wider public and that their needs are incorporated in how we make plans for the future and what kinds of livelihoods we support. It's a huge challenge, but if we don't even recognize who's there and what they need, then there's very little chance that we'll be doing a good planning process or building a good city.